Alright, so this video is going to focus on Module 11. So I just want to take a few moments to take a look at what is in here. Let me turn off my view so it's more student view. So in here you're introduced to the idea of a switch statement in Java programming. So switch, it's kind of like an if-else. Actually it's more like an if-else. So it's set up, the logic to it is very similar to how an if-else would work. In fact, they even show you here, that's the example they're giving you. So like with a if-else, you would have some condition, and if it's true, then you would do something, else if some condition's true, you do this, otherwise you do this. So it's kind of like the way a switch is. The switch is going to look at some expression, just to pull in the expression, and then compare it to this case, and if it's true with this case, then you do this. If it's true in this situation, you do this. Otherwise, true in this situation, do this. And then the fault is like an else, and I'll show you an example here in a moment. So here they're giving you a little bit more concrete example. Again, it's in general terms. I'm going to give you, I think, a better example. So a lot of times menus are really good with switches. Like if you're going to give the user a choice between, if they enter 1, they choose inches, 2 for feet, 3 for yards, 4 for miles. So that's kind of what they're suggesting here, is that the user would enter some choice, an option number, and if they choose a 1, because this would evaluate, this is a number they're giving you. We use scanner, not text input output, this is older. So we're checking to see the value of this, and if it is a 1, then we're going to do this stuff. If option number, if they enter a 2, we do this stuff. If it's a 3, we do this. If it's a 4, we do this. Anything else, we're going to print this. So again, I'll show you a switch here in a moment. So switches are really, really good if you want a quick way. And notice that with switches, you have to be checking for equality. In other words, this has to be equal to this. This has to be equal to this. So with the switch, you're checking for equality. You can't do less than, greater than, not equal to. It has to be for equality is what you're doing with the switch. So another thing that is shown here in this Module 11 is the ternary operator. So I want to explain what that's all about. Uh-oh, it didn't come up. Why didn't that come up? That's really odd. Well, you can't open that. I will have to repost that somewhere. Alright, so let me turn student view off, and I'll have to figure out a way to make sure you guys can get to that. So let me go back. I apologize for this. Back into week 5 and Module 11. I have to make sure you guys can get to this. This is kind of important. So the ternary operator is essentially, you're going to get into this file, which I'll have to repost this somehow. Make sure you guys can get to it. So essentially all it really is I'm hesitating on how I want to explain this, because I personally think ternary operator is really, really cool, but if you're new to programming, I think it's something we could wait on, but that's just me. Anyway, so the way a ternary operator works is, it is essentially just like an if-else. So in this if statement, or a decision statement, if the value of the variable number is less than 0, if that's true, we've already seen if-else's, if this is true, then we print this statement. Otherwise, we print this. That's an if-else. Well, ternary operator does the exact same thing, except for it kind of condenses all that into one line. You'll notice that if this is true, what are we printing? We're going to print the space, number, space, and then the value of the variable number, and then we go back into string output is negative. And we do the same thing here with else if it's positive. So down here we're using a ternary operator, and we're going to print the space, number, space, the value of number, space is, and then we finish our statement with whatever this thing does. And what does this do? This is first going to check as a question. It says, hey, is the value of number less than 0? And if this is true, it will do this thing. It will print negative. Otherwise, it will do what's on the right of the colon, which is it's going to print the word positive. So it does, this whole thing does the same thing as this. Granted, this is 4 lines of code, this is 2 lines of code. It does the same thing. The only thing is, to me, this is a little bit muddy, especially if you're new to programming, trying to figure out what the heck this does. But it does the same thing. So just be aware, you're going to be asked to use it in this project related to Module 11. Let me go back and show you what that is. So this project, you will have to use a ternary operator. You will have to use a ternary operator in here. So the project from Programming Activity Module 11 Sandwich, they're asking you to use a switch for a menu. Somewhere, I thought, yeah. Where's the switch? Oh, here it is. You have to use the switch. And then asking you to use, somewhere in here it says a ternary operator. Can't see it right now. Oh, here it is. Use a ternary operator. So that's what he wants you. He's using it right here. You can see it. So you're going to be asked to do a switch as well as a ternary operator. So let me just show up a real quick example of a switch. I'm going to create a new Java file. This is just an example. Wish I could enlarge this. It's a little bigger. So here's my class. I'm going to call this show switch. So I could use scanner. I'm just going to save some time and not use scanner. So I'm going to have an integer called age. And actually I'll do one called choice. And choice is going to be assigned the value of 1. Now I'm only doing this to save time. You easily would probably do this where the user gives you this value. I'm just trying to save some time. So I'm going to have a switch that is going to evaluate what choice is. And what's going to happen in this switch is I'm going to have case 1. In other words, when the value of choice is a 1, what am I going to do? I'm going to, I need to do system.out. System.out. Print line. Sorry, I teach Python, and Python's just a print statement. You chose option 1. And then I'm going to go down to case 2. I'm just going to have 3 choices. Now I don't really have the choices, so I'm saving some time here. So I'm trying to make this video not too terribly long for you. And then I'm going to have a 3rd choice. And this will be option 2, and this is 3. So watch what happens when I go to run this. I'm going to save it. Call it show switch. That's fine. I should use a capital S there. It's not best practice, Mr. Cell. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. And because I hard-coded the value of choice, it should display you chose option 1. But look, it also says you chose option 2, you chose option 3. What the heck? Well, the reason why it does that is because a switch is designed to do this thing, and if you don't tell it that you're done with this case, you're not done, if you don't say, hey, after you do this output, we're done with this, then it will do everything that follows it. So like watch, for example, if I change this to a 2, and then I run it, now it says you chose option 2, you chose option 3, so it's going to do this and everything that follows it. So a switch is a situation where it's a good idea to use what is called a break statement. Now, I personally will tell you, with breaks, you can use breaks with loops, but I'm not a big fan of using break because at this stage in the game, we're learning how to program. So break is, this is one time when you have to use a break in a switch. Alright, so we also do not have a default. What if they don't choose 1, 2, or 3? Then we need a default, which is kind of like an else. And what are we going to do with our default? Then we'll just go ahead and do some output. Say something like that was not one of your options. So now when this runs, it will display only that respective option. So that's kind of how a switch works. So read over this material and make sure as you look through this, you're going to be asked to do this Module11 Java Programming Activity sandwich, where you have to use a switch, and you're asked to also use a ternary operator. I will tell you, for me, if you don't use a ternary operator, I really don't care. So it's okay with me if you just you're going to have to use an if-else, that's all. So if you want to use a ternary operator, that's great. I'm telling you here in this video, it's optional. I'm not going to take off if you don't. Alright, if you have questions, email me, and I'm going to start making a video for modules 12 and 13.